I'm Dean, I'm the dad.
I'm Laura, I'm the mom.
And I'm Krysta, I'm the daughter.
And together we are Family Plot. Well, that worked out. I like that. We've been sounding better. I'm getting good notes from some of our listeners, so that's good.
That is good. We upgraded a few things. Not a lot.
Not a lot, no.
If you want to help us upgrade more...
Gee, Krysta, could you act less interested in the show? Because I'm not sure that people got that,
I was yawning.
Yeah.
Oh, really? We didn't catch that, at all.
Since we're talking about upgrades, if you'd like to help us make even more, a few ways you can do that. There's our Patreon, and that's a monthly donation, 1, 3, 5, or 10. 3 different groups you can be a part of: Team Bunny, Team Spa Day, Team Podcast.
Actually, we're going to have to change Mom's name to Team Electric Bill.
Team Electric Bill.
Maybe Team Rent.
Okay.
Team Pay for the internet so we can actually upload the podcast, because stuff just keeps getting higher and higher every day.
Anyway, the point is...
He said anyway.
I'm just being real right now.
Anyways.
The point is that there's 3 different groups you can be a part of. Doesn't really matter which one you donate to, because it all goes to the same place, really. So there's that. If you cannot do a monthly donation, you can do a one-time donation through Buy Me a Coffee. Any amount is fine, although I think it probably has to be a whole dollar amount, as opposed to like $1.67 or whatever. So, yeah. Also, if you can't do that, well, there's a simple way. If you enjoy the show, share it on social media. If not...
keep it to yourself.
Keep it to yourself. There you go. Thank you, baby.
You're welcome.
Now, tonight, we take a deep dive, pun very much intended, into several supposedly sunken civilizations. From Atlantis and Lemuria to Avalon and Cantre'r Gwaelod, we look into these and other civilizations that supposedly sunk beneath the waves in this very wet episode of the Family Plot Podcast.
And I'm really glad that you took control of those really strange words, because I wasn't even trying to say that.
Yeah, it's Welsh, and Welsh is... whew. So, I'm not even sure I got it right. Let me put that.
It sounded good to me, though.
Welsh is like Elvish in The Lord of the Rings. It's just like, I'm going to take a guess at how that's pronounced.
Sure, absolutely.
And it's okay, because just like Elvish, real people don't speak it.
Not generally. But, you know who does speak incredible tales?
Who?
Our Krysta.
Yes. So here we go. It is time for...
It's not just any corner, it's Krysta's Corner.
Krysta's Corner.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the corner.
There she goes with those sighs again. What is up with you tonight? We gotta get you, some B12 or something. Jeez, kid. You're too young to sound this exhausted.
Well, it's been a long week, and we have map testing for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So.
Okay, that makes sense. That map testing, that's tough stuff.
Yeah, we've been practicing, and we're also doing stuff while we're, trying to take map testing, so...
So are you telling us about map testing today, Krysta?
No, I'm not telling you guys about map testing today. I am talking to you guys about Owl House. However, there are spoilers. If you don't like those, I suggest not listening here if you like the show.
That's right. So she is all caught up on Owl House, so...
I recently have rewatched all of Owl House plus the newest episodes.
Woo!
And honestly, it was so cute and made me cry so hard. I was like, the whole time I watched it, I was just like, well, mostly speaking about the final episode.
Mm-hmm.
The last 3 episodes were sort of like a movie put together. Summarizing it basically is Luz, the daughter in the show, gets back with her mom after being at the Boiling Isles, which is a place full of monsters and all creepy, like, fairy tales. But it was actually pretty fun for her because she is the quote-unquote weird kid at school, which is how I found relations in this. But basically... she meets back up with her mom back in the human realm after the portal had been destroyed. She brought her friends with her because she was in the middle of a battle with this evil Emperor Bellows, who was trying to take over the demon realm and make everything terrible for people.
I see.
And...
Are you going to leave some stuff so people have to go watch it themselves, or are you telling us the whole ending?
No, I'm just telling you a summary.
Okay. I'm listening. Intently, even.
They meet up with this girl named V and her mom, as I said, and they try to find things so they can get back to the...
Boiling Isles?
Yeah, so they can get back to the Boiling Isles. They end up getting back to the Boiling Isles after a fight with Bellows. And then Bellows also enters the portal. And then what they realize is somebody named the Collector is having a playtime with the realm. So they have to turn the Collector into, like... No, they don't have to turn the Collector into anything, but they need to teach the Collector that what he's doing isn't okay, because he's basically a kid. And they end up, after they turn him, like, good, basically, he helps them defeat Emperor Bellows, who was taking over the body of a Titan.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yep. And then at the end, you see Luz hanging out with her friends and her longtime girlfriend, Amity.
Very nice.
It was the cutest ending, and I'm just like, yeah.
And what happened to King?
King, he turned into a big guy who he's good now. He's good now. He knows what his dad said, and he's like, his dad passed away in the last episode. But
aww.
Yeah, no, he's good. He's all grown up now.
I see. So he doesn't have an army of teddy bears anymore?
Oh no, Hootie destroyed those episodes ago.
Oh. And he doesn't tell people to tremble before him anymore?
No, he still tells people to do that, just not in the episodes, I'd imagine.
I see.
All right.
Tremble before me!
You tremble for me.
Good information. So worth watching and rewatching, huh?
Worth watching, definitely worth rewatching. Will make you cry multiple times if you're lighthearted.
Cool.
Very nice. Wait. And now there's some claps for Krysta. I already did your claps. What are you...
I was clapping about the claps.
She was clapping for her claps.
So, before we get into this, I picked about 6 or 8 sunken civilizations to talk about today, and we're going to bounce around a little bit. But to begin with, I will start with a place called Cantre'r Gwaelod. Now, I'm not sure I'm speaking that right, and I would say if there's any Welsh people listening, they could correct me, but there's no such thing as Welsh people, so I'm not worried about it.
I feel like there is, and I feel like you may have just ostracized us from the Welsh population of the world, but okay, hon, go for it.
I was teasing. It's not like they speak English. I've seen the signs in their country.
Wow.
Lots of consonants, not nearly enough vowels.
Welsh people, I severely apologize. I can't pronounce your stuff either, but at least I'm polite about it.
Now, there's multiple names for Cantre'r Gwaelod, and in fact, another one is like the Lightning Lands or something, and it's almost as famous by that name as the name I chose. I decided to stick with that because it's the first one I encountered. But the stories about both places are so similar that it almost has to be the same place, just given different names. So that's what we're talking about today. Now, it's supposedly located between Bardsley's Island, Ramsay Island, and Cardigan, now sunk beneath the waves of Wales' Cardigan Bay, where you can still catch the Cardigans playing a song or two. Okay, probably not that last thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So, how did this come to sink? Well, there's a couple of legends about that. One, a well maiden, which is apparently what you call a woman who takes over a well and watches out for it, named, and I'm going to try to get this right, Meririd. Meririd. Meririd watched out for the well in the land, and because she neglected her duties, those damn women, the well overflowed, causing the land to sink. I'm just saying, it's obvious this is a medieval story because it's a woman and she neglected her duties. And in almost all medieval stories where a woman is the main character, somewhere along the way, she neglects her duties.
Yeah, and it was probably because a man was messing with her.
Probably. Now, another legend says the land was bordered by a dike known as Sarn Badrig, also known as St. Patrick's Causeway. And there were 2 princes who were supposed to keep an eye on this dike, and one of them was named Selfenin, and one of them was not. I didn't look up the other guy's name. Selfenin is the only one we're worried about today.
I see.
Now, Selfenin was a notorious drunkard and carouser because why wouldn't he be? And because of his
it's a medieval story.
negligence, the dike overflowed, ruining and eventually sinking the land. Now, in times of great danger, supposedly the bells of Cantre'r Gwaelod ring out a warning. And in fact, during several bombing runs by the Germans over England, people swore they heard bells in Cardigan Bay.
Well, that's kind of cool.
So, and my thought on that is they probably just heard the Cardigans because they're really a good band.
And there you go again. You had me for a minute, and there you go again. Okay.
So, that is one sunken land over near England. It's in Wales, which is England-ish.
All right. Well, while we're near England, of course, we have to discuss Avalon. So, according to Arthurian legends, Avalon, which apparently means the island of fruit trees, or something along the lines of the island of apple trees, because, yeah, apples are good, is the land where Arthur's sword, Excalibur, was supposedly forged. It is also the land where, according to some stories, Guinevere retired to an abbey to become a nun. Also, if Disney is to be believed, there was a extended amount of time where the gargoyles looked out over Avalon as well. And
the ones from...
Yeah.
The ones from Notre Dame?
Yeah, the gargoyles from New York. The gargoyles. They were in Avalon for a while. In the series, the gargoyles.
Oh, that thing.
Those gargoyles. Yes. Yeah, those are the ones.
Well, you say Disney and gargoyles, and the ones I think about are the ones from Hunchback of Notre Dame.
No, they had their own series, the gargoyles.
Gotcha. I didn't realize that was a Disney thing.
Oh, yeah, totally. Elisa Maza and Goliath and Bronx and all the awesome gargoyles from Disney's The Gargoyles. Yes. Anyway, they had a long stint there in Avalon. Anyway, back to the actual Arthurian legends that Disney took lots of
liberties
with. So Guinevere possibly went to an abbey to become a nun. Further, it is believed to be the place where Arthur was buried following his final battle and will rise once more when England needs him again. That sounds a little odd. I didn't know Arthur's story led into zombiness.
Not zombiness, just...
More like rebirth? Is that what they were going for?
No, if you read Arthurian legend, Arthur doesn't die. Or at least he
lays down and goes to...
He's never seen dying. He is gathered up by several maidens on a boat that takes him across the lake, and he's never seen again.
Gotcha. See? There you go.
And so... And the Lady of the Lake kind of implies that when England needs him, Arthur will rise again.
That Lady of the Lake, she is a thing. Absolutely. She is totally part of that as well, that whole Avalon story. And of course, according to some sources, the island of Avalon actually sank shortly after Arthur was buried. Others believe that Avalon is actually Glastonbury Tor, a former island where bones have been found. These were reburied as Arthur's with great ceremony.
And in fact, an episode of Expedition Unknown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do remember that episode.
Was at Glastonbury, and he talks about how the area had been a lake once upon a time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And in fact, if I remember correctly, a sword was found in a field that would have... Yeah, the sword was found in a Roman field, or in a field that would have been underwater during the Roman occupation, which is at the time they think Glastonbury Tor was called Avalon. Anyway, but this sword was Viking in make, if I remember right. It was all on an episode of Expedition Unknown with Josh Gates, who is my hero, man crush, whatever you want to call him. But, anyway, just like they found this sword, and it was like Viking make, but it dated back to the Roman occupation, which is when they think Arthur actually lived, although I don't think his name was Arthur. It was like Artine or something like that. Anyway, but yeah, so certainly there is some evidence that he had a powerful sword. Maybe not a magic one, but certainly one that was well constructed for the time period. And then from there, we go to the continent of Mu. Now, Mu was founded by, well, it wasn't founded by anybody, but it was posited basically as a substitute for Atlantis. Sorry, I got lost in my notes for a minute. As I said, it was posited basically as a substitute for Atlantis. And so it was originally concocted, theorized is the word I was looking for, by a gentleman whose last name was Le Plongeon, which is a strange last name for a guy who's half American, half British to have. I mean, whereas Mallory wrote Le Mort d'Arthur, which is a French book, this guy's American and British, and Le Plongeon certainly sounds like a French last name to me. So, anyway, as I was saying, this was Le Plongeon's theory, is that in Latin America, Augustus Le Plongeon examined the Maya ruins in the Yucatan and believed their empire was older than the Greeks or Egyptians. A British American examined the Maya ruins in the Yucatan and believed their empire was older than the Greeks or the Egyptians.
Wait a minute. You said Le Plongeon?
Le Plongeon.
Is that where a plunger came from? Because that sounds awful familiar.
No, because I have no idea. It could be. I don't know.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Anyway, he believed the Mayan Empire was older than the Greeks or the Egyptians. Furthermore, in 1864, Charles Etienne Brasseur de Bourbourg mistranslated the Madrid Codex using the Delanda alphabet. According to him, Mu referred to a continent that had sunk in some ancient disaster. Le Plongeon believed Mu existed prior to the Maya peoples, and when it sank, the survivors journeyed to the Yucatan and became the Mayan people. It is clear from Le Plongeon's writings that he felt Mu was in fact Aristotle's Atlantis. Later, other antiquarians and occultists seized upon Mu as another lost continent similar to Atlantis, and even Lovecraft used it in some of his short stories. Most specifically, the short story "Cool Air," which is good. It's not my favorite by him, but it's good. Plate tectonics in the time since the 1840s, when this plate tectonics have conclusively proved that there was no continent-sized landmass that sunk. Continental drift and plate tectonics pretty much proves that when it was all one landmass, which it must have been once upon a time, that it broke up without too much of it sinking.
So, in other words, it's buckets.
Yeah, and to be fair, a lot of these apparently are. There are some that might have a kernel of truth here or there.
Oh, yeah.
Like Cantre'r Gwaelod, I don't think it exists, but the very fact that they have heard bells in times of great danger is kind of very interesting to me and makes me wonder about the area.
Sure.
Mu, on the other hand, never existed.
Right.
It's based on a mistranslation in the first place, and beyond that, I mean,
kind of like believing that, the sun was raised by a god riding a chariot across the sky.
Right. It's old mythology wearing a modern dress, and modern occultists want to believe it. In fact, it was actually part of Bard Games' who created a game called, let me see if I can remember this. Yeah, they created a game. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but basically it was early in the days of gaming. It was very similar to D&D.
Like a civilizations kind of thing?
No, it wasn't a video game. It was a role-playing game.
Oh, okay.
And I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me. But like I said, it was put out by Bard Games. It has since been put out by other gaming companies. And dear Lord, I could look it up on my computer, but I don't want to.
Okay.
But long story short, when they created their world, the people of Mu were a race like Minoans, like an ancient kind of dark race of wizards.
Ah, okay.
And so, yeah, that's the people of Mu. And now, let's take a moment for a word from our sponsors, such as they are.
So, welcome back, and I'm feeling sponsored.
That's good. At least one of us does.
So, here we go. Now it's time for the big tamale. Tamale, even. It's that big that we had to come up with a new word for it. Time to discuss the one that everybody thinks of when you talk about sunken civilizations. The one that everybody looks for and thinks about. The one, the only, Atlantis. It was first mentioned as part of an allegory by Plato. A nation of great scientists and warriors with a fierce navy. He turned this group against the Athenians, who defeated the scourge they represent. Since then, multiple authors have tackled Atlantis. People like DC Comics had it ruled by Aquaman. Marvel makes it home to Namor, the Submariner. Disney made it the source of a trio of adventure films, which used the voice of Michael J. Fox, among others. Sleeping Prophet Edgar Casey spoke of Atlantis under hypnosis, claiming that it was the first human civilization and that it sank due to the explosion of laser-like power crystals that weren't properly cared for. Man, talk about leaving the water running.
I know, right? You got those laser-like power crystals. You gotta keep an eye on them things.
You do, absolutely. It requires upkeep. He even prophesied that some structure would be discovered in the 60s. Many claim that this is the Bimini Road, the underwater road, that some believe is a sign of an ancient civilization.
Yeah, again, another episode of
Exploration Unknown.
Yeah. He talks
Man Crush or...
Yeah, it's Man Crush. You missed it the first time. I already said this.
Josh Gates is the host of that show, and according to y'all, he's my man crush. But yeah, he has said that he doesn't think the Bimini Road is a thing, but there is a section of underwater area that looks like a road that's been cleared, but it's a very short section of road. Mm-hmm. They have no record of this piece of area being above the waves ever. Mm-hmm. So it's really odd.
Well, sure. I mean, most of the things we talk about on this show are. So Atlantis also lies at the heart of stories like the Bermuda Triangle and the Devil's Triangle, many believing that these electromagnetic disturbances are part of Atlantis' defense mechanism. Atlantis is also enjoying something of a renaissance, as many have noticed that unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, which were formerly known as UFOs, often disappear beneath the waves. This has led to many claiming that these underwater bases are home to these craft and thus have been mistaken for Atlantis. Atlantis is almost always pictured as a great city ruled by scientists and philosophers that somehow sinks beneath the waves.
Yeah, Atlantis is probably the best known of the sunken civilizations, and it is probably the one that is most fiercely argued for as a place that actually existed.
Sure.
But I actually, when I was doing the research on this, reread Plato's The Republic, and specifically the part dealing with Atlantis. And it's an allegory. Atlantis isn't any place. It's just this sort of ant-like communism that he sort of comes up with as a way to rule. He has to have an enemy force, so he creates the Atlanteans. And it's clear that to me anyway, that it was just a construct. But that being done, he has affected novels and stories for thousands of years from that. Mm-hmm. And occultists will just love the idea of there being an underwater city. And I'm just like, you might find a city or two underwater, but if so, they didn't start there and nobody was living there when it sank. I mean, they might have been living there when it started to sink, but by the time it got down to the bottom, they weren't living anymore.
Weren't living there anymore, yes.
What do you think, Krysta? You want to go to Atlantis? And I mean the real one, not the place they call Atlantis in the Caribbean with the water park and the ships and stuff.
I was going to say.
Either way, I'm good.
Go there.
I don't want to go to Atlantis.
I ain't going to play Sun City, but whatever.
You know.
So, I get to take us to Lemuria.
Oh, I died.
That sounds kind of like a disease, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Lemuria is another one that was created as a way to explain something. Mm-hmm. That has since been just almost absolutely disproven.
Debunked,
yeah.
If you will.
Right. First proposed by zoologist Philip Sclater in 1864, this land was supposed to have been in the Indian Ocean, a place he believed that lemurs actually originated from.
Cool.
Because he was a bit concerned that the only place in the world you find lemurs are India and Madagascar, parts of Africa. And so he thought
King Julian was good with it, but yeah, go ahead.
King Julian was voiced by Borat, and so we can't trust him anyway.
You got to move it.
Yeah, you got to move it.
You got to move it. You got to move it.
Okay, all right. We're going to get dinged.
Okay, so was that.
I'm not going to get dinged for anything.
Oh, you're lucky I can't kick you.
So, Anyway, so Philip Sclater came up with the idea that there had to have been a landmass that connected all of those, where these lemurs, who were clearly related to on some level, had to have come from. And so he created Lemuria, which, like I said, he placed in the Indian Ocean.
Sure. Like you do.
Yeah. And of course, once he did that, to him it was just his best guess at where they came from, because at the time in 1864 we didn't understand the continental drift or the tectonic plate theory, so he didn't understand that at one point all of that probably had been connected,
sure.
But since then those things had moved apart. Mm-hmm. And so every occultist worth his salt suddenly wanted to take Lemuria as their own place. And it, too, has turned up in comics and other places. But yeah, this was, of course, almost immediately stolen by occultists who used it as the basis for all sorts of ideas, including the birth of the human race.
Wow.
The idea was that the continent sunk beneath the waves, but with the rise of continental drift and plate tectonics, Lemuria has been almost completely disproven. Almost. Many believe that the land was somehow magically moved. In fact, according to some, Lemuria sank almost 12,000 years ago, and the survivors somehow escaped to the underworld of Mount Shasta, which is in California, not the Indian Ocean.
Interesting. Well, if it was all together, I guess.
Well, and the thing is Mount Shasta, and it's one of the reasons that Mount Shasta has sort of the reputation it has in the Missing 411 as a place where all these weird things happen.
And really good soda.
Is that... I
thought it was funny.
Okay. Where was I? That Mount Shasta, where all these Lemurians are supposedly dwelling, and that's a lot of people's explanation for why people go missing in and around the park that surrounds Mount Shasta these days. Now, others think it's just, it's a wild area, and that would explain why things are. And there have been some remarkable disappearances in the area, but I don't think it has anything to do with Lemuria. That one just... I no matter how I turn that, I can't put Lemuria and Mount Shasta together, and I'm not sure how the people who did managed it, because it doesn't make any sense to me.
They were just pulling things out of their bums.
Probably.
Like lemurs.
I would not want to pull a lemur out of my bum. It would be painful.
No, I think lemurs, aren't they like a critter that, throws poo?
Well, lemurs
I feel like lemurs do. They throw poo. I feel like that was one of the running jokes in
well, lemurs are related to monkeys.
There you go. So they throw poo. So pulling things out of your butt, like lemurs. That's what I said.
I thought you were talking about pulling lemurs out of your butt. And
how would one go pulling a lemur out of your butt? That doesn't make no sense.
I don't know. It happened in The Mask.
Well, All right. It's a thing. Okay, well, so lemurs and soda. Yes, that brings us to the Minoans.
Yes, the Minoans.
The Minoans. The Minoans were amazing. The Minoans were an early civilization that was beloved by the Greeks. Minoans apparently were really impressive. They had an amazing civilization. They were some of the first people to master art and armor and war and culture. They lived on a beautiful island nation. It was just amazing. The Minoan civilization had their own language, which we have not translated. And they also had their own religion. They were known for their strong navy, their fierce soldiers, and their scientific achievements. Sound like somebody else we recently talked about? Then suddenly, around 3,000 years ago, they simply vanished. Their culture just disappeared. Many feel like the volcano they shared their island with exploded, destroying most of the island and much of their culture. That literally large swaths of the civilization simply vanished beneath the waves. What remained was largely absorbed by the
Mycenian. I've also heard it pronounced Mycenian.
Mycenian culture. The Mycenians have been discovered to have a lot of genetic similarities with the Minoans. So the Minoan civilization actually may well have been the inspiration for Plato's Atlantis.
Yep. In fact, Josh Gates says as much in the episode of Expedition Unknown where he investigates the Minoans. And yeah, they were quite advanced for their time. And we know that around that time, a massive volcano blew and took most of the island of Crete with it. So, and that's where the Minoans lived at the time.
Sure.
So, yeah, that's what happened to them. So, we have here everything that Atlantis was.
Right. That's why I said it sounds very...
But the narrative is only slightly different. And for those with an occult bent, let's point out the Minoans just sank. They're not living under the water waiting to come back. So, yeah. And the Minoans are the one culture we know is buried beneath the waves.
Right.
Now, there may be a few others. When I was doing the research on this, there's a handful of other cultures here and there because water... For example, the Missouri and the Mississippi River have both been diverted at different points. And so that place where they were is now pretty much a canyon of some size. And that place where they are, if there was a town through it, now no longer has a town.
Exactly.
So there are places like that in the world, but I mean, there's no mystery there. It's like, we need to divert a river. Okay, let's divert it through here. Well, people are living there. We'll tell the people to move over there.
Right.
Because that's where the river's going.
Yep.
So, of all the groups, now, as much as I man, I want to believe in Atlantis like you wouldn't believe. I think there may be something to the idea of some sort of underwater base where these UAPs are disappearing just because we have a lot of video of them traveling in, near, or underwater.
Sure.
And so, yeah, it may well be, but it's not Atlantis, or at least not what anybody thinks of it as Atlantis.
I gotcha.
But overall, I was interested in learning so much about this, and I forgot Avalon was essentially a sunken culture, although it's actually almost a bit reversed if they're right about it being where there was Glastonbury Tor
right.
having been an island, because that means instead of a sunken land, it's a raised land.
Right. What was once sunken has now returned, kind of thing.
Yeah, just like Arthur.
Sure. Hey, how about that? What do you think, Krysta?
I mean, I believe in this so-called underwater land. You said it was a sunken land, right?
We've talked about several. You mean Atlantis? Is that the one you were? Sure.
Yeah, I believe that there could have been something or somebody that had found it and maybe isn't telling anyone because that's like how they're finding resources
Sure.
or new.
I am with, that's my whole thing. It's like, I still think that of all of the things that are out there that we have not really been able to get out there and explore, wow, the ocean is really one of them. All of the oceans on this planet, there are so many things that we as humanity have a really hard time getting to. How much could there be hiding down there that we can't actually get to successfully? Even with machines and submarines and all of the things that we have, there are still areas of the ocean that we can just barely go down into and stay into for a very short amount of time, you know?
Well, when I was much younger, a little older than Krysta, a little younger than Demix, I was hanging out with Mike Blanton. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike. Mike doesn't listen to this show, does he?
I don't know. He might listen to this episode because we're talking about it.
Well, maybe.
But Mike and I were at a Perkins, and he brought up
Our Perkins?
Yes, our Perkins.
That's so neat. Go ahead.
But it was before it was our Perkins.
Well, yeah, I mean, that Perkins is lots of people Perkins. But anyway, go ahead, babe.
So, but we were at Perkins, and we got to talking about how he thought it was very possible for civilization to be under the waves. And he's like they could have evolved separately, and if they evolved underwater, they'd actually be smaller because they'd be compact, right? Because of the depth and the pressure.
Cool.
And so to be able to withstand that, they would have to be very small and compact.
Like Atlanteans might be mini people.
Right. And so his thought was at the time, and mind you, we were both
probably very high.
We were both very high when we were talking about this. But yeah, his thing was that, like, they could even have planes that flew at roughly the same height to their cities as we fly them in ours. Now, mind you, it would follow a certain amount of scale, because if we're talking about many people, then these mini planes, well, they wouldn't fly that high, but still as high as they'd fly, we could miss them.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, but I think by this point, somehow, somewhere, somebody would have caught a fish with a little person in it that got eaten or something.
Maybe.
You know, so I love you, Mike, but I no longer buy the underwater little people theory.
All right.
However, I am fascinated by the Minoans. To me, they're just proof that even when you find that things aren't quite what you think, there is stuff to be found. And yeah, I can't wait to find out more about their civilization. And I know there's several groups around that area now, like excavating and trying to translate stuff. So that should be quite interesting.
Absolutely. More to come on the Minoans.
Yep.
And on that note, I think that's all we have for tonight.
Yeah, that very well may be. That could be our show. Thanks for listening, as always. Thanks to Bill Barrett. Bill is who does our theme music. Bill is a consummate musician. If you need music for any project, Bill's your guy. Reach out to him at Bill Barrett, BEHRENDT, at sbcglobal.net. Thanks to Paige Elmore of Reverie True Crime, who, along with our Krysta, did logo art for the show. Thank you, Paige.
Thank you, Paige.
Thanks to Aaron Gnurk of the Big Dumb Fun Show, who continues to promote us locally. Thanks to the good people at Drunk Theory, who just dropped in our promo to their episode.
I love our family at Drunk Theory. Hi, Drunk Theory.
Hi, Drunk Theory.
Hi, Drunk Theory. And then join us next week as we look into the Tsavo Lions.
Tsavo Lions?
Yes. Long story short, to make it simple, 2 lions in the area of Tsavo in Africa basically waylaid a place where they were working on a railroad. And they ate...
And they had lots of lunch.
They ate lots of people, yes.
Oh.
So it should be quite a toothsome episode.
That's the sound of the cats working on the train. Rawr, rawr.
I still like it. It should be quite the toothsome episode. Now, don't you go lying. Come join us next week.
I love it. Bye.
Bye.